On a quiet, forgotten street, buried deep in a neighborhood that time seemed to have abandoned, stood a house known simply as House Number 9. No one could explain why it had remained empty for decades. It wasn't falling apart. It wasn't decrepit. It was just avoided. The neighbors never went near it, and whenever someone mentioned it, their voices dropped into whispers. People who lived nearby repeated the same chilling sentence: whoever enters the house never leaves the same. This story isn't a rumor. It isn't the kind of ghost story children whisper at night. It's real. And what I'm about to tell you is everything recorded about the last family who dared to live inside that house: Sam and Malek. Chapter 1. The family moves in. Sam was calm, logical, and deliberate. A man in his late 30s, medium height, slightly athletic, with short black hair and a trimmed beard. He believed everything in life had a reason and could be solved with reasoning. Malek, his wife, was the opposite: sensitive, artistic, and imaginative. A dedicated art teacher, she noticed details no one else would, and her long, dark brown hair framed expressive eyes that seemed to see right through the ordinary. They had lived for years in a cramped apartment, saving every penny to move to a home that would finally feel like theirs. When they saw House Number 9, Sam calculated its value, square footage, and location. Perfect. Too perfect, almost suspicious. Malek, however, felt something immediately, something that tugged at her chest, cold and heavy. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, letting go of Sam's hand. He frowned. "Feel what?" She didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the long, dim hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly. The silence pressed against them like the house itself was holding its breath. Sam, ever practical, smiled. "It's perfect, Malek. We'll never find a house like this again." Malek hesitated, but was drawn further inside. It wasn't curiosity or excitement. It was something darker, something that felt alive. They signed the contract the next morning. Chapter 2. The first night. The first night seemed ordinary. They unpacked boxes, admired the high ceilings, the faded wooden floors, and the vast, empty rooms. The house felt silent, peaceful, almost unreal. But at 3:17 a.m., Malek woke with a start, not because of a noise, but because the room felt different, heavier, colder, silent in a way that pressed down on her chest. She opened her eyes. At the end of the hallway, a shadow stood. Tall, faceless, motionless. It was as if the air itself had formed a figure, staring at her. Malek froze. Her voice refused to come out. The shadow turned its head toward her. No features. Nothing human. And then, it vanished. Malek stayed awake until dawn. She didn't tell Sam. She feared he would dismiss her, or worse, think she was imagining things. Later that night, in the living room, a wooden chair moved slightly. Just a few inches, but enough to show them that they were not alone. Chapter 3. The subtle signs. Days passed, and subtle but undeniable signs began to appear. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms. Cold drafts brushed against them, even with all windows closed. Malek heard whispers, low and unintelligible, echoing through the halls. Sam tried to rationalize everything. It's an old house. Old houses make noises. The wind, pipes, nothing more. But Malek's unease grew. Her sketches changed. Once bright and lively, they grew dark, full of shadows that moved slightly when unobserved. Faces she had never painted appeared, watching her from the canvas. Every night, exactly at 3:17 a.m., she woke to that same oppressive silence, that same feeling of being watched. One evening, Sam returned home to find Malek standing in the hallway, staring at a wall. "Malek?" he asked. She didn't turn. She whispered, trembling, "It knows we're here." For the first time, Sam felt unease ripple through his logical mind. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Chapter 4. The House Reveals Itself. Extended version. By the end of the first week, things escalated beyond subtle disturbances. The house was no longer just old and silent, it seemed alive. Objects moved, chairs slightly shifted, doors creaked open and slammed shut without cause. Paintings tilted, frames cracked, and shadows twisted unnaturally across the walls, as if reaching toward anyone who dared look directly at them. Malek's sleepwalking became more frequent. She would rise in the dead of night, wandering the hallways in a trance, whispering words in a language Sam could not understand. Shadows, thin, faceless, followed her just beyond his vision. Every time he blinked, they seemed closer. Sam tried to remain rational. Cameras, audio devices, even motion sensors, all failed. Batteries drained within minutes, recordings corrupted. The house didn't want to be documented. It wanted them alone. The psychological strain. The couple began to grow silent. Meals were eaten in tense quiet. Laughter vanished. Smiles disappeared. Even the sunlight felt different. Morning light that once brought comfort now seemed muted, filtered through the heavy curtains of gloom that hung in the house. Malek's dreams became a recurring nightmare. Endless hallways stretching infinitely, doors opening and closing on their own, whispers repeating words she could not understand. She would wake screaming, only to find the hallway empty, but the oppressive feeling of being watched lingered. Sam, too, felt the strain. His logic, his reason began to falter. The constant unrest, the subtle movements, the whispers in the walls, they ate away at his rational mind. One night, as he tried to calm Malek, who had woken screaming, he felt it himself. A cold pressure pressing against his chest. Something intangible. Watching. Judging. Waiting. The first clear warning. On the seventh night, the whisper came again. This time, unmistakable. A voice, soft but sharp, cutting through the silence. "Leave. Now." Sam froze. His heart raced. Malek's eyes widened, and she whispered, trembling, "It knows we're still here." The whisper returned, louder, closer, echoing from inside the walls themselves. "Leave, or it will claim you." They looked at each other, the reality of the house sinking in. This was no ordinary haunting. This was something intelligent, something patient, something waiting for them to slip. The night escalates. That night, the house's disturbances increased dramatically. Water in the kitchen sink drained on its own, forming swirling patterns as if tracing symbols. Windows rattled violently, though there was no wind outside. A cold draft moved along the hallway, almost like a living thing brushing past them. Malek's sketches, which she had left on the table, were found scattered on the floor. New sketches she had never made, shadows forming humanoid shapes staring from every page. Sam's attempts at reasoning failed. Even his logic could not explain the unnerving feeling in the air, the sensation that every movement they made was being observed. By midnight, the whispering had grown into low, urgent murmurs, circling around the living room. Malek clutched Sam's arm. "I think it's trying to communicate, or warn us," she said, her voice trembling. Sam shivered. "It's trying to scare us. Maybe drive us out." But fear now was not just about the whispers. It was about the house itself, its awareness, its intent. The shadow's first direct encounter. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the couple awoke again. Malek had felt it first, a presence standing near the bed. She froze, heart hammering, as Sam turned on the lamp. The shadow was there, tall, thin, faceless, yet undeniably present. It stood at the far corner of the bedroom, completely still. Then it moved, smoothly, without sound, gliding toward the hallway. Every step seemed to stretch time. The air thickened. Sam whispered, barely able to speak. "Don't follow it." Malek's eyes were wide. She didn't respond, paralyzed with fear and curiosity. By the time they gathered courage to look again, the shadow had vanished, but the impression of its presence remained, like a pressure in the room that would not leave. Closing the first week. By the morning of the 8th day, the couple was exhausted, mentally and physically. Sleep deprivation, fear, and the oppressive atmosphere had changed them. Malek spoke less, often staring at walls. Sam became irritable, jumping at any unexpected sound. And yet, the house had only just begun to reveal its true nature. As they ate breakfast in silence, Sam noticed something etched on the table, not something they had written. Words carved faintly, almost invisible. "The house remembers and waits." Malek's breath caught. She whispered, "We should leave, now." But the thought of leaving house number 9, it wasn't so simple. Something about the house, its shadows, its whispers, had already tied itself to them. And deep down, they knew, once the house claims you, it does not release you easily. End of episode cliffhanger. The house's intent is becoming clear. The shadows are watching. The whispers are warning. Will Sam and Malek survive the first week? Or has the house already begun its slow, relentless claim?